you, where would you place yourself within the history of the IACAC? When did you come online?
Well, thank you for the invitation. It is with a feeling of being honored and with pleasure that I am here again. 20 years ago, the annual conference of the IACAC was taking place here in Atlanta also, and it was my first conference which I attended. And well, I had several feelings. I felt too young to be a member of this association.
Still are.
No. Seeing all these impressive personalities like our good friend, the blessed Reverend Peter Holloway, I remember very well. But then I thought, well, it can be useful to be a member of this association. Went back to Zurich and told my colleague Claudio about it. So the following year, in the year 1998, we followed your invitation, Jim, and you were the host chaplain of the conference in New York. And it was right after the crash of Swiss Air 111 that we have been there, and we were asked to tell and to give testimonials how we tried to handle this catastrophe. Obviously, we were quite impressive to you, fellow members, and to my great surprise, the following year, 1999, I was asked by Franz Gasteiger and Helmut Leipold from Munich Airport whether I would agree to become the president of this association. I had been 2 years being an airport chaplain like you, John, and was then elected as a president, and we had a good time. Besides our dear Peter Holloway, who was the long-standing directory officer, like a solid rock in the waves, all the other members of the board were elected new, I think. Mike Windsor from Manchester Airport as secretary, Adrian Henning from Johannesburg as vice president, my dear friend and colleague Claudio as treasurer, and myself as president. So we started to send out the monthly president's newsletter, and a second thing which was new and found also some opposition was the mandatory membership fee. Claudio, as the treasurer, wanted that. I think every member then had to pay $30 per year, I think.
Yeah, except if I remember before 1999.
Okay, so we had a good time. The first conference then which I chaired was in Johannesburg. A good conference with a wonderful post-conference tour also. Which included a game drive through the Kruger National Park. If I'm too long, you have to stop me, but I'd like to continue just a minute.
I'll wrestle you to the ground when appropriate.
The following year, in 2001, we experienced the attacks of 9/11 in the US. Right the day after, the executive board held a telephone conference in order to decide whether we should hold the foreseen conference in Indianapolis or not. There was the fear that other similar attacks could happen on other airports, and as chaplains we would be then needed at home. But we decided to hold the conference in Indianapolis as foreseen, as a sign of solidarity, not only with Glenn and his team, who had done a lot of excellent preparation work, but also as a sign of solidarity with the American people. We wanted to show them, you are not alone. During the conference, the grounding of Swissair happened, and Claudio and I were called back to our Zurich airport in order to support the employees and all who were concerned. But one of the problems was to find a way to fly home. Our airline, which had sponsored our tickets, did not exist anymore, and the tickets were not valuable anymore. In 2002, the conference was in Paris, and in 2003 in Melbourne. Both of the conferences were perfectly organized by the teams of Paris, Jean-Pierre Dassonville, and team, and Melbourne, Peter and Mary Holloway and team. And maybe one sentence also. That time, the board members met 4 times per year physically. We had meetings on the different airports and flew to visit each other. So I was flying in my life 3 times the long flight from Zurich via Singapore to Melbourne for just a few days only.
Yes, but we looked after you really well.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Some names keep on cropping up, and perhaps it's appropriate at this point for us to think about those who aren't physically with us, but rejoice on a farther shore in a greater light, particularly Peter Holloway, whose name keeps on cropping up, and the debt that the association owes to him, and Adrian Henning, of course. Mike Vincer, my predecessor at Manchester. I'm sure we could continue. We owe them a great debt as well. So it's not just about those of us who are physically here, but also those who aren't able to be with us for whatever reason, and those who have died, and rejoice in a greater light. Henri, as a young blade, would you like to continue the story from where you jumped on this moving aircraft?
First thing I want to say that I've been a funny president. I don't mean funny haha, but funny peculiar. Because I'm the first layman to be into this system, and for an anti-clerical bloke, this is quite a victory, you see. But I started, the diocese gave me the charge to set up a chaplaincy in Nice airport. And it was a good idea to give that to a layman who was an ex-manager of companies. Because when the first meeting took place with the airport, they decided that they would put all the religion in the world in about 10-15 square meters, you see. So I just stood up and I said, if you want just toilets, just to be able to put on your card that you're an international airport. We are not interested. Thank you very much. And I stood up. So they said, sit down, sit down. So finally we are 60 meters, and we managed to have an interreligious chaplaincy with a small mosque and a small synagogue and an ecumenical chapel. Then my first contact with IACAC was in 2002, I think, in Paris. There was a terrible president there. And I was quite taken by the listening, because I had to learn from Peter Holloway and Mary. And the next year we went to Melbourne. And there again I really got to work onto the ecumenical side of it, and we had we went there with the Orthodox priest and the unfortunately the pastor, the Protestant with whom I started the chaplaincy, had been moved, and I had nobody there with me at that conference. Then we went to a few years. We went to Cape Town for a conference where there was a difficult one because the president had died in between, and he was supposed to organize, this was his chaplaincy. But Peter and Mary organized everything quite well. But nobody seems to want to be president. So I was designed as a compulsory volunteer. And Denise, who was next to me, said, "Henry, if you say yes, I divorce." So I negotiated with her that I would just do 1 2 years. And the next queer thing which was done during my time of presidency was to have the funny idea of going to Lusaka for a conference. I'm still glad that we did that, but it was a heck of a job to get these working, and finally after that I had a double bypass. So it's difficult. I love our African friends, but it's difficult to work with them. Although they're nice, I'm still in good contact with them out there.
Thank you, Henri. There is an emerging theme through this, I think probably from at least 3 of the people sitting around this table, of young, impressionable people new to the association who just didn't know any better, who ended up as president. Which seems awfully close to home for me as well, really. And possibly a journey which ends with major surgery, I don't know. But, Jonathan, can you give us any insights to continue the story?
Yes, I was really heartened to hear that the diversity and the actual friendship that's always emerged through the conferences. I came to Gatwick Airport in 2002, and the chaplaincy had been set up in 1974, just 2 years after the International Association started up. And Philip Loy, God rest his soul, he was the Anglican appointed by the airport to be the senior chaplain, and there was also a Roman Catholic priest who worked with him, sadly I can't remember his name, and then a year after, I think it was the Salvation Army came on board at Gatwick. So there's always been the denomination, the ecumenical work there. Philip was at the airport for 16 years, and I'm not sure how many times he came to conference, but I know Mary said that she can remember him. And then after him, Stuart Wilson came. He was there for 7 years, and my predecessor was Phil Hughes. He was there for 6 years. And I'm aiming to beat Philip's record of tenure, because I've been at the airport 15 years. But it was at the Dallas conference, I think, that I was approached by Claudio. That's quite a shock to me. He asked if I would consider becoming president. So I went home and spoke to my partner and said, Paul, how will we do this? Can we manage it? What do you think? Am I worthy of that job? It was very difficult an election, really, because the vice president was Michael Banfield. So there's two of us from Great Britain, prayed about it long and hard, and then thought, well, no, perhaps I could offer the association something, a little bit of different, perhaps following on from Jim's acceptance of diversity, being an openly gay man, to be the first president, that I thought would be an honour and a privilege. So, and I was very touched when I was elected. I wanted to focus, when I was president, to embrace the diversity of the religions. So, with my newsletter that was started, I think Walter said from himself, I always try to end the greeting with a greeting in their own religious phraseology, and I would move it around. It wasn't set, so it wasn't God bless you first, but it was Assalamu alaikum, Namaste. So I was trying to embrace everybody. Dr. Raj Singh from London Heathrow is a very faithful member of the conference, but so many times he was the only non-Christian. So to see Shahid and Naseem here as Muslims, really, I'm so thankful and grateful that hopefully during my time I try to embrace the multi-faith aspect of our wonderful organization. And I say I have been humbled the support that I was given in my time as presidency. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thus began the endless tradition of only accepting presidents from the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.